All right, today's lesson is on solving quadratic equations by completing the square. So the first two things you need to remember is that the equation needs to be in standard form, start in standard form, and then we're going to move our constant term to the opposite side of our x terms. The other thing we have to remember is that when we're solving by completing the square, we have to add our b divided by 2 squared value to each side of the equation. All right, so let's take a look at the first example, and then we'll go through all of these steps we have listed above. So this equation is in standard form, so we are going to move our minus 6 to the other side by adding 6. Okay, so that's first step done. Second thing we have to do is we have to add a common value to both sides because our goal is to make this side a perfect square trinomial. So to find that value we need off to the side, I would say, okay, what is my b value? Well, in this case, my b value is 2. And then we're going to take my b value and divide it by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. Then we're going to take my b divided by 2 value and we're going to square it, but 1 squared is still just 1. So I'm going to make this one in purple. I'm going to make this one in pink. That way you can see the difference in the two. So the b divided by 2 squared value goes in both of those places. And we've now made our perfect square trinomial. So remember, a perfect square trinomial is a binomial, looks like that. And then 6 plus 1 is 7. So to get this value, we need to do x. And then the value that goes there is your b divided by 2 value. So since it is a positive 1, I'm going to write plus 1. And then from this point, we're just going to solve this equation by extracting the square roots like we did previously. So x plus 1 equals, don't forget, plus or minus the square root of 7. And then I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, so we get x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 7. And that's your two answers. So if you want, you can pause the video. Yeah, that's okay. So pause the video, try the your turn, and I will just write that answer down for you. All right, so hopefully you got to a negative 8. The next little thing we have to remember, because there's a little caveat to this, is if we are solving the quadratic by completing the square, your a value must be 1. So if it's not 1, you have to divide every single term, both sides of the equation, by that a value. So if I'm looking at this first example here, my leading coefficient is 3, so I need to divide each term by 3. So then we end up with x squared minus 4/3 x minus 5/3 still equals 0. So I'm going to take my constant term to the other side and add my plus blank value on both sides. So again, off to the side, my b value is negative 4/3. My b divided by 2, so dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by a half. So we get negative 4/9. And then if I'm going to square that value, we get 16 over 81. Oh, hang on. Let me go back. I can't multiply right. I got ahead of myself. So multiplying the 3 by 2 is a 6. So now let me reduce that. I was squaring it. It's getting one step ahead of myself. So if I reduce that, I get negative 2/3. Now if I square it, I get 4/9. That looks a little bit better. All right, so now I have my perfect square trinomial, so it's going to be x minus 2/3 in this case. Because remember, we always take this value to put there. And now I have to take my 5/3 plus my 4/9, and we're going to get 19/9. Again, solve this by extracting, so I need to take the square root of both sides. So x minus 2/3 equals plus or minus the square root of 19 all over. The square root of 9 is 3, so that works out nicely. And then finally, I need to add my 2/3 to both sides. So I get 2/3 plus or minus the square root of 19 over 3. All right, so try this last your turn by yourself. We won't do the last one, we'll just do this one as practice, and I will write your 2 answers down for you. All right, so hopefully you got those 2 answers, 5/3 and -1/2.